Go. Hello, everyone. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another episode of the Third Fleet Podcast. This is episode 72, and I'm here with my good friend Gaijin Hunter. How you doing, Gaijin?
Hey. I'm doing good. My throat's a little raspy, so if I do some coughing, it's just the weather change, but doing good.
I think both of us are still like kind of recovering from colds. It feels like everybody in the world has kind of like been sick over the last couple of days. I just came off.
I'm happy. It was just a common cold, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, mine was a little bit tougher. Like I actually had like fever and stuff. It was really, really bad.
Ooh.
Like it was nasty, and I wasn't able to do my Eric's approved workouts because Eric's has been making these workout plans for me, and I've been working out like a madman. And I wasn't able to do it for like a week and a half. And today I did it, and it completely killed me. I was like, oh my God, Eric's, what have you done to me? You've destroyed me.
I'd say common cold and fever is a common side effect of lack of Final Fantasy 14. So I think you need to, I'm going to prescribe you some Eorzea.
I actually rated just last night. We did our weekly reclears, and now we're back to progging on P8S, which is P8S has been interesting trying to do it blind. Would not recommend. We've actually stopped doing it blind because it's too much. Unless you're like a super mega veteran of Final Fantasy 14, it's way too much for blind prog.
Yeah, so you guys know this podcast is only going to be about 3 minutes long. We're just making it to tell Ark, who had a really funny video, which I'm sure we'll put a link for that.
Yes.
You're wrong. You're wrong in every regard, and no, the Three Repeat podcast is going nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that was the podcast, so we'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a nice day.
Description down below.
Would have been funny if we actually did that. It's just
good God. No, that'd be horrible.
And I do like my traditional tease of like posting on the community section, doing all of that stuff. Here it comes again. And they'd be like, 5 minutes, bye, see ya. No, but I think that Ark does some really fun stuff. He uses a lot of my clips, and personally I love it because it's big ego boost. Like, I'm big enough. They're using my clips now. Ooh, look at me. No, but like the montages that he does of me like thirsting over Mantle, if my wife ever sees those, I'm kind of screwed. So we just have to hope that never happens. But that's some fun stuff. And he used this footage that I had that I put.
I was going to ask what that is from. I was like, why is he punching the shit out of me?
See, that's the thing. When I recorded that video, your face wasn't there. It was never intended even for it to be used like that. But it's just what I usually do is this is stuff that I made for a video, which I'll tell you what it is. But what I usually do is I'll use like things that I've done without the actual finished product, and I'll just put those like on Twitter, and people are like, what the hell is that? Why is he doing that? Why is he punching that pillow? And that is that was for a video that I did for God of War. Actually, because when you power up, when you use Spartan Rage, that's what Kratos does. He goes like, "Roar!" and then he just starts punching everything. So that was the idea. That was like a mini intro to one of my God of War videos. You don't actually even see the pillow. You just see like a picture of the monster that I'm fighting in the video. So that was the point.
You just use the raw footage.
Yeah, I just put the raw footage up there, and I'm like, hey, look at this stupid thing I did, and Art just ran with it. He warned me too. I think he warned me on Twitter, and he said like, I'm gonna make good use of this. Don't you worry about that. But yeah, that was fun. So what have you been up to besides just like playing a whole bunch of Final Fantasy 14? Or including playing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're doing on the weekends now because for people who do not play the game, there's a really big update coming mid-January. So this is kind of like a very good downtime. A lot of people, I think, are taking the month off, playing other games, having a good time, seeing family, and then, come back next month for the big updates. So we're sort of in checklist mode. So we're just doing all the other things that we wanted to do that we didn't do yet, which is a slowly, like it's quickly going down. It's becoming a small list of things that we have yet to do. But we're doing our ultimate reclears in the weekend, which has been really fun. So I've got, I think, 5 kills in the bucket and 10 more to go. But I'm sure we'll get those before the end of the year. But I also have, I went back and I've been playing a little bit of Monster Hunter. Played some Rise, played some not Sunbreak, some Iceborne, actually. Ooh. It was so funny because the other day I made a video and I called it, what do you call it, Sunrise or something? I butchered the name. They're like, man, you can tell he's been out of the game for a long time. He can't even say the title.
You called it Sunrise. That's interesting. Monster Hunter Sunrise.
Yeah, or something like that. It was funny. How about you? I saw a video of you sort of relapsing a little bit.
Relapsing? That is incredibly adequate, considering that for a large portion of my life, I played that game to the exclusion of everything else, which is World of Warcraft. Those of you who aren't aware, I've been playing the latest expansion of World of Warcraft. I went in...
Sounds like so far they haven't disappointed you. It seems like it's been solid.
They haven't. It's been super surprising. And by the way, guys, I know that you guys are like, why are you guys talking about this? What about Monster Hunter? We'll get into it real quick, okay? We're getting just all this stuff out of the way, all right? But the thing was, I went into it extremely cynical because Blizzard has completely botched the last two expansions. And I went into it more as if, like, okay, I'm going to report on this so that people know whether or not, it's going to be good. And so far, I'm kind of like combing through it with a fine-tooth comb, like, where is it? Where's the bad? And I haven't found it yet. And it's been very surprising because they've done some really interesting things. Like, to give you an idea, I can't get on an MMO regular flying mount anymore. I can't do it. Because the flying with dragon riding is so good, I can't stand regular flying mounts anymore. Like, if I have to go back to the old world of World of Warcraft, I'm like, bro... Man, screw this. Give me dragon riding everywhere right now. I don't care. I want to go super fast. Because, listen, with dragon riding, you just go so fast. It's ridiculous. It's like a rocket. Zoom.
Valstrax, man. Just...
Yeah, it's pretty much. You pretty much just like riding Valstrax the whole way. But it's like, overall, it's been interesting because they haven't really put any, mandatory chores, which is something that they're famous for. They tend to do a lot of mandatory chores. And so, wouldn't you know it, when you take mandatory chores away from your game, the experience is actually pretty fun.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
I wanted to shift this into a very interesting topic, which is something that a lot of people have been talking about, myself included, which is about the Video Game Awards. So I'm not sure if you've done the voting. I went ahead and I voted for all the video games and stuff like that.
It was the same 6 choices for almost every award, so it was pretty easy.
No, there was a game that broke through in the Game Awards, and I was surprised. Did you see my boy Xenoblade Chronicles 3 up there, nominated for Game of the Year?
Yeah, I made sure not to choose it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to win.
It's always nice. I still think that they should have more slots on the nominated because I think part of the idea of Game Awards, because you don't really control the winners, is that it's nice to give visibility to some of the great games of the year. And it's such a big industry. There's so much more than just 5 or 6 games you can highlight. I kind of feel like they need to expand it to 10 just to get visibility on some of these games.
Listen,
get some more variation.
There are some sections where they weren't even able to fill the required 5, so they just added a random game in there. I'm not sure if you've seen the fighting section.
The fighting one, yeah.
Where they put Sifu in there, and it's like, what do you mean? How does this make any sense? And the best part, as I was going through it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to vote for it, and I hope it wins, too. Just to
get
show
the conversation. I've heard the game is good. I haven't played it, but I've heard it's a good game. So
I've played the previous game from them, which was Absolver, and it was really good. I really enjoyed Absolver. It's not a game that's going to be for everyone, and I think that Sifu is something along the lines of that, and it is something that I've been meaning to play. I just haven't really had enough time.
It's the unfortunate part of Game Awards, right? All the games are good, so it's kind of a shame that they get dragged into these controversial arguments over the categorization of what they are and stuff like that.
I think the funny thing about the Game Awards is that the way that I watch it is just like, look, it's just a celebration of games. At the end of the day, like I'll act up on it whenever like, oh, my game won or oh, my game lost. It was done dirty. Like, oh, how could you?
Yeah.
Like that's a funny thing to do on stream. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, I like the show. And I always hear people where they're like, oh, I don't like the show. I think it's bad. It's like, it's just a celebration. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares if somebody wins, if somebody loses? At the time, we can all have fun and make fun of the decisions or whatever and make fun of whatever memes come. I mean, come on, the Joseph Fares meme, the hell with the Oscars. I mean, you know, I'm trying to be PG-13. So,
yeah.
But it's like,
but he's also,
really good.
you know, Jeff Keighley's also creating a really good key beat for companies to plan a marketing drop or something like that, right? So I think it's good for the industry overall.
I think so as well. But even though I know that some people don't like it, but it's like, hey, you know, don't like it, don't watch it. It's whatever.
Don't watch
I personally like it. I'm going to try to stream it. I'm not sure because it's really late here in Portugal when that comes out, which kind of sucks.
I do hate that they do some of the more meaningful awards they do like off camera, like during the break, we're going to give away this award. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's
I mean, the people who are watching the whole thing, doesn't care if it's like 2 hours or 3 hours. Just do all of them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's going to be 3 hours anyway. But, you know. Anyway, so one of the biggest controversies to come out of the Game Awards was Elden Ring being nominated for Best Narrative. Now, I'm gonna tell you something, which is I was confused over the meaning of the word narrative.
Yeah, that's been the main discussion here.
It's like I changed my mind when I saw a video where, and this is so stupid because like I could have just looked up the definition of the word narrative, but in my head I'm like, here's what narrative means. Narrative means somebody narrating something to you. That was
that's the opposite. Yeah, and that's the opposite of what it is.
See, that's the thing. That was my thought of what narrative means, which is why I was like, I wish this category was just called Best Story, because that's what I said. If this was called Best Story, I'd just be like Elden Ring, no questions asked.
The thing is, I think it would still be debated because story is a term that gets debated constantly. Like, is premise story, is world building story, or is it the dialogue? Is it the events? But see, that's the same issue.
That's the thing. To me, story, I was looking at narrative as a very different thing from story, but it turns out that by the definition, it's pretty much the same thing. Narrative, story, it's really whatever. It's just, I think it might have to do with also the meaning of the Portuguese word, narrativa. I don't think it means the same thing. Because like when you literally translate narrative to narrativa, I think there's a different meaning there. And I think that might have been what confused me, because after looking up the definition of the word narrative, I realized, Elden Ring wins 1,000,000%. And I don't care what anybody else says, because look, I've played God of War all the way. I think it's a fantastic game, because that's the game that people are saying should win. Yeah. I think that God of War is a fantastic game. I think that the story of God of War is fine. I think it's a good story. But if you're going to compare the two stories between God of War and Elden Ring takes the cake, and it's not even close. The problem is, a lot of people are saying, oh, but in Elden Ring, I have to go watch a YouTube video to understand the story.
Doesn't tell you the story, right? It's the alternative narrative methods that it uses.
Yeah, but the thing to me that confuses me is like, well, what do you mean you have to watch it? You don't have to watch a YouTube video. You think that Vati Vidya is like inventing the Elden Ring lore? It's in the game.
He is amazing, but
he is awesome.
He's not inventing it.
But it's like the lore is in the game. He's just presenting it to you in a more consumer-friendly way. But fundamentally, everything he is telling you is in the game itself. If you look it up, if you see the way that it's told. And it's not just that. There's also a lot to be said about, environmental storytelling. Like you go to Caelid,
that's the word I was going to say. Yeah.
You go to Caelid and you can see, some really messed up stuff happened here. And then you come to find out that Caelid is like that because, at least I think it is, because of the war between Radahn and Melania and how that kind of like spread rot everywhere and whatnot. And it came to a stalemate. And just the little things that you can find out, because I don't know how many people are aware of this, but for instance, when you see Radahn, the first time I even saw Radahn, I didn't even realize he was standing on a horse. And then when you realize, he's standing on this little tiny horse. Oh, how's that horse capable of like carrying him? Come on, that doesn't make any sense.
There's a whole story behind that.
There's a story behind that. And it's all justified in game if you take the time to look it up, which is really, really interesting. And I think it,
Yeah.
it says a lot about the game when you are looking those things up, and it makes the story that much more meaningful, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, so narrative is a tough word, and my interpretation of it, because I'm like you said, I think it depends on the country as well, and the modern usage of the word has been there's dialogue, which is like how they tell the story,
Hmm.
like the actual spoken dialogue and the lines and the acting and all that. But then there's the just the underlying story, like the events that are connected and the premise, the world building, all that kind of stuff. That's the narrative where the dialogue is placed on top of that, like the actual cutscenes and events. But I love it because it's a very unconventional narrative, right? That's what makes the game so interesting. So, I guess for people who don't like that type of narrative and they kind of want the roller coaster experience, which I call it, like the theme park experience, where you get on for the ride and it's very well curated for you and shown to you like a movie. Like I could see like personal preference playing a role, but it's just so funny seeing people going, "That's not a story." I'm like,
Yeah.
look, you could say that I prefer the method of storytelling in God of War more. Therefore, to me it was better. But I mean, it also depends. It's just like you have to look at, I think, the industry impact it's had. Um, like you said, environmental storytelling, the amount of dialogue created between players due to that story, due to the way that events played out, the amount of lore discussions and videos, it's quite amazing. Elden Ring really, I think, gets in your head, and it's something that you want. Like if I was a high school student, this is the type of shit I'd be talking about after school. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, but do you think that he was doing that, or what's going on there? Like it's a very intriguing, which means that it's an intriguing story, and I love the fact that they hired what's his name,
George
George
R. R.
Martin
Martin. Yeah. To make the
to
lore.
do, and he was in an interview saying like, he's like, oh, it was years ago, and like they told me what they want to start the game, and they're like, okay, write us the ancient past that gets us there. We're not going to tell any of your story, but give us a whole very robust ancient past of how this world came to be, and we'll use that to drive our decisions when we start coming up with the breadcrumbs. And
And I
it's
think
just a really interesting method.
I've mentioned it in a previous podcast, but for the people that might have not listened to that, it really, if you were a little bit more aware of like Miyazaki's past, as
Oh yeah,
in terms of his reading habits and all of this stuff, you would be much more understanding of the way that he tells his stories. Because in a lot of ways, while there are certain events that did take place, there are a lot of things in Elden Ring that are open to interpretation. Like you're supposed to fill in the blanks. And, there is, once you get everything, all the information, there is one kind of like timeline almost that presents itself. But there
yeah,
are still things where you're like, oh, maybe this thing happened or maybe that thing happened. And
yeah.
that's kind of like the story that he is telling. And the reason he does this is because a long, long time ago, he used to read books and he didn't understand all of the words. And so he would like fill in the blanks himself and like,
Headcanon, yeah, it's great.
yeah. And he would
And
like,
no one can tell you, no, you're wrong. It's like, no, it's like it's open to interpretation.
yeah, this is the way that I saw it. And I personally love it. I've always loved it. And I like the whole communal aspect of it, which is something that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, the shared community experience of Elden Ring, which is also,
Wild.
once you start expanding that, which it's not just the story, it is the gameplay itself. And that's also one of the reasons why you can't really have different difficulty modes in the game, because it just straight up would not work as a community experience. It's a
Yeah.
communal thing. And I just think that a lot of people don't get it, because like I just want to play my video game alone and be done with it. And Elden Ring or any of the Souls games, they're just not that kind of game, except maybe Sekiro.
Yeah.
Sekiro, you can kind of just like play it alone and be done with it.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
But again, I consider these nominations more of an open letter to go tell you to go, like, hey, if you want to have a story that's good, why don't you try all these games? Because they all use different methods. Like I was thinking just now, like Near Automata, right? That game is generally praised for its narrative, and people love it, but it's very different the way it's told, right? Like I remember
Yes.
even I was confused by it, where I did a single playthrough and I was like, but it's like I didn't understand the mythology behind how
Wait,
the
what
story
do you mean?
unfolds and how it's played.
What do you mean by a single playthrough though? First credits?
Yeah, exactly. I know it's funny.
Okay.
So, like if you don't know, you don't know, right? But it's a very different, unorthodox way of telling a story, and the way it comes together is really interesting. So, I mean, I just consider it an open letter for people to go and try all the games, and the methods are different, but they're all good in their own ways. But it's kind of funny seeing people just crap over Elden Ring out of, I don't know if it's copium or just they didn't like it, or they've never tried it. They don't know the storytelling method. But it's kind of sad to see so many. Well, then again, it's probably only 1% of people because it's the internet.
it's that loud minority most likely.
Yeah,
but
it's like to break out of them damn shells.
It's funny that you brought up Nier Automata, because like Nier Automata is one of the things. The way that I always describe it is like, listen, this story can't be told in a book. You have to play it. If you don't play it, you don't understand the story. And people are always like, what do you mean? Of course it can be told in the book, just like any other. And I was like, no, you really can't. You have to experience it. And it's quite unique. Quite unique. Yeah. But I think it definitely
looking forward to that.
I think it definitely deserves to win, but I think that God of War will most likely end up taking that one, because...
You think so?
Yeah, because if you look at the jury, the people that actually selected, it's mostly just mainstream media. There's like 2 or 3 entities in there that I'm like, I respect these entities to make the proper choices that would reflect the gaming community, but a majority of the people in the jury of the Game Awards.
Okay, well, they're just like... I'm going to bet against you here. I think Elden Ring's going to win it.
For best narrative? What about Game of the Year? Because, like, listen,
think it's going to win that too.
The fight that I'm looking for is Game of the Year.
I think it's going to win both.
Hey, I'd love to see that. I hope it does.
There's never been this much chatter about a game throughout the year when it comes to quality, when it comes to story. It has dominated the conversations online all year.
And the thing for me was also, it was hilarious to see the other developers like mauling over the success of Elden Ring and then complaining about it doesn't even have the right UX. Where's my user experience? I want a mini map and I want quest markers. And it's like, get the hell out of here, bro. Your games suck. Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Ubisoft developer. Get the hell out of here, bro. Get out of this conversation. Exit the chat.
That's coming up in a few days as of recording, so I'm excited to see it. And I really, really hope that they announce DLC for it. I know they just announced the Coliseum PvP for Elden Ring, which looks. I mean, I'm not into PvP, but it looks fun, and it's a free update. You can't complain about that. That's going to accuse everybody in the comments to call me a hypocrite because I complained about something about Monster Hunter Rise. It was a free update as well, but you know what I mean.
No, but the thing about the PvP thing that I hope that they do is, like, you know those larval tiers that let you respec, which I believe you can only get about 7. You should be able to earn
those.
That's the thing. I think you can only get like 17 per playthrough or something like that. I'm hoping that with this update, I'm not sure, and by the time this podcast comes out, that information might even be public, but I am hoping that you can win larval tiers, even if you lose the fight. Like, you might be given like every 3 fights or 4 fights, you get a larval tier. And not just that, but also get like upgrade materials for your weapons, because some of those are also somewhat limited. And that way you could keep changing builds and experimenting with different things. Yeah, because that's the fun of it, Yeah, because that's the fun of PvP. And it's like, doing a build in Elden Ring is a tremendous time investment unless you're doing like save file manipulation. And I'm not even saying save file manipulation as in, you edit your save file. No, I'm talking even just like uploading your save file to the cloud and then like doing a build and then re-downloading it and doing another one. Like, if you guys want to do that, that's whatever. I don't care. But it's like, I'm not a big fan of doing that. And I think it'd be cool if the game had a system, since you are promoting PvP so much, so that you don't have to do that. So this way you could have multiple different builds, multiple different experimentations. I think that'd be cool. But that's the Elden Ring stuff. Next, we have something that we definitely have to talk about quite a bit, which, for starters, it's a little bit weird how it came off right now. But it's obviously the announcement of Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Sunbreak coming over to Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Microsoft Windows, which was confusing for some people, which is like, what do you mean? It's already on PC. Yeah, it's on Steam. Now it's going to be on the Windows Store. And then it's also going to be on PlayStation, PS4, and PS5. So basically it's going to be on every single platform under the sun.
Yeah.
But it's not going to talk to itself at all. It's going to be like, hey, here's the Xbox version, here's the PlayStation version, here's the Switch version, here's the PC version, and we don't talk to each other.
Actually, the PC is considered the family of the Xbox, which we'll get into. So they do talk to each other, and they do cross-play with each other. But we'll save that. But I think straight out of the get-go, though, the objective of this release, I think, is for people who didn't get to play the game. I don't think it's for double dippers. I think that was the PC version on Steam.
It's not the double dippers. It's a triple dippers.
Triple dip. Yeah. I think this is for people who wanted to play it, but or somebody who's been playing it and they really want to play it with a higher performing machine. I think this is a good answer. But I think primarily it's for new players.
Yes.
And that's only echoed by the fact that they're missing some very key components that they should have had.
Yeah, like I think that off the bat, they should have figured out a way to do cross-platform. Like it's kind of, a lot of people have had to restart moving from Switch to PC, and a lot of people are now like, oh, it'd be cool to play on console as well. And now they're being asked to restart again. And it's like, that's a big ask. Because, like, for instance, I'd love to check it out on PlayStation 5. I think that'd be interesting. Yeah. But the amount of grind that we have to do, which we'll get into later in the podcast, is just incredibly prohibitive. Now, even if you didn't have, like, crossplay, it would have at least been nice to be able to have, like, some kind of save import functionality. Which I understand that Microsoft and Sony, they're always like, we don't. But usually the Switch and Microsoft, they tend to, hang out with the Minecraft stuff and whatnot that they seem to do just fine. So I don't understand why they wouldn't, at least on the Xbox side of things, be like, we'll just import the Switch save. It's not like these saves are friggin', rocket science. I'm sure that you can transfer a save from a Switch to an Xbox. I'm sure you have the technology. Like, come on.
Yeah. I think the issue that we're seeing here, and I don't like it because it's not something that the players should be burdened with, but there's an issue with inflation, exchange rates, and market shares. And so, for example, like Sony prices their stuff so damn expensive, like in Japan, because they're like, well, we're going by the current exchange rate. The Xbox doesn't. So, like, Xbox is the cheapest, almost the cheapest in the world you can get here in Japan. It's amazing. It's like Apple. They just match the dollar to yen or whatever, and it's a really good deal. But the thing is like, so they're thinking, well, if you can transfer your save datas, then people will buy the DLCs and all the other items on another platform and then just transfer their save data over, and therefore they don't have to buy it off of our platform. And that's kind of unfair, because if they're enjoying the game on our platform, we want them to purchase a DLC on our platform so we get a cut of that. So that's I think is the crux of the issue. Especially I think that's what Sony. I want to say I think they've publicly mentioned it before, but
I'm a little bit confused. What does save transfer have to do with? You'd still have to buy the game.
Exactly. Well, the thing is that's the problem. Is most modern companies are thinking DLC is probably the same, if not more profitable than the game purchase. So
but you don't have to like get the DLC. Like, imagine, hey, you bought these things on Switch, they don't work on PlayStation. Too bad.
That's exactly what I think they should do. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Was I don't know why they don't just say, like, if you buy the version and you bought DLC, know that before you start committing to buying DLC, that is tied to that platform.
Yeah.
When you move your save data, that stuff's not going to move over. But if you want to come back and play it on the Switch, like, that'll be there. Like, it's up to you how you want to do it. I think that's a fair thing, because then you're giving, it's not the ideal thing, but it's giving players a realistic choice in the matter and saying, look, there's some demerit, but you can still do it. But now they're all like, no, you can't do it because we're so afraid of this. And it's such a negative setup, I guess. But I think they should do that.
They 100% should, because...
But what the hell is up with Sony? Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think they definitely should do that, because it would basically make players happier. Because, like, imagine if I have some friends that have the PlayStation 5 that didn't have the Switch, and now I'd have an opportunity to play with them, but it's like, bro, I don't want to grind, like, all of these master ranks and all of this stuff. It's a bit much. I've already done it. Like, for instance, with Monster Hunter World, I did it on PlayStation, then I did it on PC. And on Rise, I did it on Switch, and then I did it on PC. And it's like, bro, if I keep playing every Monster Hunter game twice, or in this case 3 times, I'm gonna burn out of the franchise like me, really fast. It's too much, in my opinion.
They're going to hurt their audience before the next big Monster Hunter game, which is a bad move. But I mean, like going back to the point that this is not. They should do that. I think that there's no question about that, right? The fact that they haven't found a solution is disappointing, to say the least. But then you get, like, I want to know what the hell's up with Sony, because you get, this release is for those who haven't played the game, let's say, right? And it took, let's say, substantial work to make the release, so that's fine. And so they can't do cross-platform because they're using, let's say, first-party servers or whatever. Like, let's say that's all fine, right? Mm-hmm. Then you get into the issue of, I don't get this, but like let's say, because there's still a lot of people who cannot get a PlayStation 5. Either like in Japan, you can't even find it in stores in Japan still, because they will not give stock to this country. They just keep giving it to the West.
You can't find it in Portugal either, but keep going.
But then also there's the pricing issue. This has been a really tough period for a lot of people. They can't afford to just jump to PlayStation 5 if they've got a PlayStation 4, right? So it's like there's going to be a sizable chunk of people who would buy it on the PS4 who may potentially get a PS5, let's say sometime next year.
Yeah.
Their save data, their progress won't even transfer. They'll have to start the game all over on PS5. Yeah. What in the hell is that?
So I saw your tweet, I think it was yesterday or something, where you talked about this, and I started thinking to myself, wait a minute. My Monster Hunter World save file worked just fine between my PS4 and my PS5. But the reasoning is, that's because there is no PS5 version of Monster Hunter World. Yeah. You're just running the PS4 version with better performance. Which if you do that, so say for instance, if you buy the PlayStation 4 version of Monster Hunter Rise, and then you play that PlayStation 4 version on your PlayStation 5, that should be fine. Your save file will carry over.
Yeah, but the game is already optimized from Switch, so the PS4 version is going to be great. So it's you're going to want to enjoy the PS5 version.
Yeah, the problem is the PS5 version is going to be different. And my experience with this was with Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is really weird. Because, Spider-Man Miles Morales came right before the PlayStation 5 came out. And so, as you know, I work with PlayStation in Portugal, so they send me, games and stuff so that I can check them out and make videos about them. So they sent me a PlayStation 4 version of Miles Morales. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I started playing it. I put out first impressions video, the usual stuff. And then when they eventually got me a PlayStation 5 and they sent me a PlayStation 5 version of Miles Morales, I was like, okay, let me just go grab my save. No.
Yeah.
You can't just go get a PS4 save, because a PS4 save and a PS5 save, Sony considers these two completely different things. And so at the start of Miles Morales, you could literally not import your save file. And I was like, what do you mean? I sent them an email, and I was like, what's going on? Why can't I import my save file? And they're like, in Thanksgiving or whatever it was, a little bit later, we're going to release a patch that will let you go to the PlayStation 4 version, export your file, your save into the cloud, and it's not even the regular PlayStation cloud. It's a different thing. And you remember, I'm not sure, did you play Toki then on the Vita? And then on, do you remember how they had that thing where you sent the save file up and then It's
it reminded me of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on 3DS and Wii U.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. You have to. So if they don't develop that system into the game,
first party didn't do it, so the publisher has to do it themselves.
Yeah, the publishers have to do it themselves. And I guess that Capcom might just be like, well, what do you mean? On the Xbox, this shit just works.
They're probably the amount of people who are going to have that, probably not worth developing such a tool.
That's probably the thing. But that's what you need to do.
So maybe is it shared fault then? Is it Sony's fault for not even having an actual basic ass system?
Yes.
That does what you think it does, but it's also Capcom's fault for not saying, you know what?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass, but we're going to make it possible because we want people to know that they can invest their time in the game now and still get the best version later if they want.
It's just the thing is, I don't know how the servers work for that, because it's not the traditional save file cloud servers that you use. It's something different. And I don't know who has to maintain that. If it's Sony or if it happens to be the publisher that has. Because I remember, for instance, another game was Dragon's Crown. It did the same thing where you'd have like, this was actually something like a long, long time ago. You remember Hideo Kojima talking about transfarring?
Oh God, yeah.
It's that. It's what you have to do. You have to basically have a menu option in the actual games themselves to send those save files back and forth. But fundamentally, this was like my biggest criticism when I had access to the PlayStation 5. This is my biggest criticism is like, look, your competition with this one feature, which they call like smart delivery or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, it just like, means it works like you think it would.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, bro, this is what you need to do. And I said it at the time when I first reviewed the PlayStation. It was like, listen, this is a great console. It's fantastic. There's this one thing they need to fix, and they still haven't done it. And that's why now you have this situation with, at least this is what I would imagine from the experience that I have with the hardware. This is probably why it's working live. Because like I said, if you just have the PlayStation 4 version of the game installed on the PlayStation 5, it works just fine. It's not a problem. But when it comes to the PlayStation 5 version, it's a different save. So therefore, you need all of this import, export. Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense. So, like this is an area.
I'm going to blow a little sunshine at Xbox.
Yeah, sure.
I love my Xbox. So I'm going to blow a little shine towards it. But they are the only of the three consoles that don't require a paid membership in order to have cloud saves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's cloud saves is just a basic function of the system. You don't need to have actively paying for Xbox Live Gold or whatever it's called to have that. So their cloud doesn't give a shit if you are on Xbox One, if you're on Xbox S, if you're even on Windows like Game Store. They don't care. It's just like, oh, this is your Xbox, a profile. Yeah, here's your save data. Boom, sync, done. There's no bullshit. And when you download a game, it just says, what hardware are you on? Okay, here's this version. Like, it doesn't care. It just handles it.
That is definitely something that Sony still has to work on, because I remember when, I don't know if it's still like this, but actually there is still a problem with this on the PlayStation, which, for instance, I have No Man's Sky, the physical version, and it's PlayStation 4, but there's a free PlayStation 5 upgrade. So what happens is you put in the disc, right? And it installs the PlayStation 4 version. And I'm like, okay, but I want the PlayStation 5. So you go in there and
it's a waste of data, yeah.
No, but this is going to blow your mind. So you go in there and you upgrade it, and it's like, okay, now you have the PlayStation 5 version. So then I go back and I'm like, okay, I'm going to delete the PlayStation 4 version because it's just occupying space for no reason.
Yeah.
Then you put the console to rest.
Oh, no.
Then you turn it back on. And because it has that super SSD that's super fast, it's just like, there you go. We just installed the PlayStation 4 version of No Man's Sky. And I'm like, and why did you do that, PlayStation? Why would you do that?
So stupid.
So yeah, it kind of sucks. That is something that they still need to sort out. And I don't understand why it does that. At a point,
I never thought about this, but
I started thinking that I was losing my mind because I was like, I deleted this yesterday. Why is it here again? And then I deleted it again, and I'd restart the console, and there it was again. And I was like, stop installing this.
I'm kind of curious, though, like, now that I just said it, it makes me think, like, the fact that PlayStation makes cloud saves an actual feature to pay for, like, they advertise, get PlayStation Now. It includes, game saves, which is, Nintendo also, like, I'll throw some shit at them, too. They do the same thing. Yeah. You can't get the cloud saves without their service. But I wonder if that's one of the reasons. But even then, like you said, there's some companies that were allowed to obviously make their own workaround. So as unideal as it is, why wouldn't they? It's a weird ass issue. And then I'm curious about your thoughts about the fact that they're releasing. First, I gotta say, because we spoke some negative, I want to give some positive. I am thrilled that this is coming to the other consoles.
Yeah, exactly. This is great.
There are so many people who did not want to play it on the Switch because the Switch, even though the game does really well on the Switch, it's a game that feels really good when it runs on higher end hardware, which the PC version showed. So I think they're in for a treat, and it's been like well over a year. People have waited long enough. It should have came earlier, but I'm happy as hell. Yeah, it's people should be able to play.
I've always said, if it was up to me, like, all you'd have to choose, like, you get to choose whatever box you want to have. Hopefully your friends will use the same box. But even then, I would even prefer it if it didn't even matter. It's like just cross-play everything. No exclusives. Everybody gets the games. Because that's just like a much more positive environment to be in as opposed to like being engaged in these. You still see people like doing console wars in 2022. Like people are still fighting these invisible enemies telling me like, hey, we have God of War and you got nothing. Or, hey, I have Games Pass and you got nothing. It's like, bro,
I saw a comment on Twitter.
stop.
Someone was like, I feel lied to because this was supposed to be a Switch exclusive. I'm like, it's been for a long time. Get over it, bro. Like, if you're happy with your purchase and you got to play this day one, then that's all that matters.
It's
like
it's
you can't.
so...
The rule is you can't be happy at someone else not getting access to it. Is just stupid.
Yeah, that is stupid. Like, imagine not wanting to share your game, being like, oh man, more people get to play my video game, and now it's not special anymore. It's like, shut the hell up, bro. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. And to blow Sony a little sunshine as well, the reason why I think it's bullshit that you don't have cross progression between their own damn system is because the PlayStation 5 version is going to run at a higher resolution. It's going to look better. It's going to play better, even though I'm sure the PS4 version is going to be really good.
Yeah.
Because the game was already super optimized for Switch, so it can handle it. But they said, I'm really curious how well it's going to be implemented, but they said that they are including haptic feedback on the PlayStation 5 version.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And the thing is I need to say this because I've noticed people are misunderstanding it. Haptic feedback does not just mean adaptive triggers, like when you're shooting stuff and you get that tension and stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's also referring to the haptic rumble, which is, I think, is the killer feature of Final Fantasy 14. The fact that like when you get hit by an attack and you're blocked with a shield, it feels different. If it was wind, it feels like wind graced up upon you. If it was fire, it feels like a big boom. You know, like Square Enix did the work that they made it really different.
I think you're confusing that. They don't actually do that in combat. They do it outside of combat, like when you're moving, when you're flying.
No, yeah, I'm just trying to give an example of what I mean by adaptive haptic.
Yeah.
So like, I'm really curious on how Monster Hunter is going to implement it. They could do it.
I want to feel those wyvern fires, dude.
Yeah, can you imagine that?
Yeah, exactly.
But, so that's, to me, that's an exciting feature that I think that people would want to enjoy because the dual. I think that Microsoft needs to just throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, even if there's some like cost we have to pay for the patent, like we love what you did with the DualSense. If publishers are willing to put in the effort to implement it, we'll pay Sony their patent fee, and we're going to include it in our controllers because it's so good.
Microsoft and Sony just need to like be more friendly with one another and stop this ceaseless bickering over Call of Duty. It's like, oh, you can't.
Well, Sony's the worst. If
you've
read everything, Sony's the worst of the two.
No, but,
Microsoft's no saint.
Look, both of them are doing shady stuff. Let's just be real here. Both of them are like, oh, poor little old me. I'm doing so bad because Sony has all these big bad exclusives. And then Sony's like, well, yeah, but PlayStation Plus sucks. And it's like, stop. What are you guys doing? Like, that's so stupid.
The way I see it is like Sony tried to cry foul at an acquisition saying, this is going to create a monopoly of exclusivity. And then Sony and Microsoft just being like, bro, you built your whole platform based on exclusives and you've got a shit ton. What are you talking about, man? You crazy. And now they're all in a bitch fight.
I think the thing that really bothers me about all this is that they're just being like that over Call of Duty, which is such a...
Duty.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
Really?
Duty says it all. Yes, good point. So another thing that we got to talk about with this thing coming to the home consoles is something that concerns me a little bit, which is the fact that for starters, they're dividing it. Like, I don't understand why. Because like, if you remember,
I don't understand that at all.
Back in the day, you would have a Monster Hunter coming out in Japan, and then later we would get the ultimate version in the West. Now, obviously,
you would just get it.
I prefer what we get now, which is we get the game, and then we get the ultimate version. And I know that some people like they don't like that very much which I think that they don't completely comprehend what an ultimate edition is. Because like, hey, with the base game, you get about 100 hours or something of content. Then with the ultimate version, you get 200 hours more. It's like, that's some pretty good value to me. That's all I'm gonna. That's a pretty good value, man.
But if Sunbreak is already out on the other platforms and has been for a while, and it's a packaged product, why is that not the version that's coming to consoles?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I've had some people.
And it's going to be like months in between, right? It's like coming out in January.
It's on
10th
spring.
Or something.
It's on spring.
And then spring.
It's weird. It's really weird.
It's got some really nasty timing implications, which I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't know what's actually true, though. I wish Capcom would have came out and said why. Like, maybe they said, look, we weren't planning on doing this, but there's been huge demand, so we're doing the development. We didn't want to make you all wait, so we're going to split it up. Or maybe they say Rise really wasn't designed to be part of it. I don't know if they can come up with an excuse for it, but there's probably not. But with their fiscal ending at the end of March, it just screams, hey, we want to get sales in for this fiscal year, but we also want to get huge sales for next fiscal, so we're going to separate it. It's like, well, at that point, why don't you just wait until spring and release it, honestly?
Yeah, it's
But I guess they don't want to do
weird.
that because maybe they have announcements coming up at the end of the next year. I don't know. But it's just weird.
I don't know why they would do that. And I've had some people tell me, well, of course, this way we can play through Rise at a chill pace, and then we can play Sunbreak. And it's like, it literally has no impact because this isn't like World and Iceborne where there's massive changes in the base game because of Sunbreak. Because the stuff that you get in Sunbreak, you get it when you get the Sunbreak. It's not like you're getting those.
Really cut it off.
Yeah. So
like
it's
all
like
the end game, quote unquote end game shit, right? In Rise, like that you would spend all your time making these rampage weapons, they become immediately obsolete the moment you walk into Sunbreak, which I didn't like.
And to me, it just would make more sense for starters for Sunbreak to just be the version that they release. I think that would be a much better user thing. And some people are concerned over, then I would be pressured to play too much. It's like, no, just play it at your pace and you'll be fine. It's not the end of the world because even if someone's in Sunbreak, they can come back and play with you in Rise, and it's not a big deal at all. So it's like,
and they'll have the defender weapons and stuff, when Sunrise.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
So it'll be
game
really
comes
easy
out,
to get through Rise.
The game comes out with the defender weapons. You're gonna burn through Rise.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it comes out with it. No, I was thinking the same thing, and then I went through, and it's coming out with the stuff that they gave to base Rise, where it's slightly stronger for Rise to get you into high rank, but it's not the defender series. So it's like it's even weirder because they're really giving everybody the final version of Rise. So all the event quests will be there. All that extra, like get to HR faster, will be there.
It's Rise 3.0, basically.
Yeah,
it's not
basically
1.0.
right.
Yeah,
but that just makes me go like, what?
and then the other thing that really frustrated me, because then I was thinking, okay, so you're gonna release Rise, and then you're gonna release Sunbreak. Fine, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. There's not gonna be crossplay or cross saves. That's tough to swallow, but fine. And then I was just thinking, okay, but at least give me a physical edition with Rise 3.0 on the disc. Because right now, the only physical edition we have of Monster Hunter Rise is a cartridge that has Rise 1.0, which is missing huge sections of the story. It is missing a lot of monsters, and we know that this was because of the COVID and all of that stuff. I get it. But then when Sunbreak came out, it's that same cartridge. It's still Rise 1.0 with a Sunbreak digital code. So these are the physical versions that exist of the game right now. And if they would at least come out and made, hey, here's a physical version of the PlayStation 5, it has Rise 3.0, and then Sunbreak comes out and it has like the final version of Sunbreak, all content on disc, then I'd be like, all right, then I'm happy, okay? You've made me happy with that. I think that's pretty cool. I'll buy these just to have them because eventually Nintendo's going to be like, hey, these Switch servers, man, they're real expensive. Need to shut them suckers down. And before people go like, oh, that's never going to happen. Yeah, look at the Vita.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the Vita and tell me that's not going to happen. And then you're going to be like, well, that's Sony, not Nintendo. And it's like, yeah, Nintendo wanted to shut down the 3DS servers not that long ago, too. So it's like, trust me, there will come a time where these servers will shut down. I'm not saying it's going to be anytime soon. Like, I believe the Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate servers on the Wii U are still up. This is my understanding. Last time I checked, they were still up, and this is like really old game. But there may come a time where, you know, you just don't have those servers anymore. And it'd be nice to have something on a disc. And they're not even releasing physical versions of the game. They've confirmed it to Gamatsu yesterday, I think.
Yeah, I used to think that it didn't matter until I got burnt with the Soul Sacrifice thing.
Oh yeah, you learned with Soul Sacrifice.
Yeah. And I have been spending time in the last year to go over and learn a little bit more about video game conservation, because it's been a subject where I feel like I've been naive. I've had some takes and people have pushed pretty hard. And so I've, you know, really thought about it more and thought, you know, and I was wrong. And I do think that preserving the history of this wonderful industry is an important thing. And I'm seeing how things are just getting lost in time for no good reason. And for such a creative industry, it sucks.
So Soul Sacrifice really hit you hard, huh?
It did, yeah. I even went and I've been following, the Video Game History Foundation for a while and what they do with preservation. So I went ahead and donated $500 to them the other day because, like, they do good work. I just feel really bad that it took me a while to come around and really realize that this is maybe I was too optimistic. I thought that, like, well, digital preservation should be possible, right? But the thing is companies are not doing
they don't care.
Preservation. Yeah, they don't care enough to do it. So it's like I was too optimistic in my thinking about that.
I think that nowadays it is getting to a point where you almost have to go like, hey, you know, we need to start backing up these games. Basically, that's because the big publishers aren't going to do it, so we're the ones who have to do it and start backing up stuff. And although it's kind of unfortunate. I remember when I was a kid.
I remember reading a story that I don't know if this is even true. It probably is though. That in Japan, what was it, Super Nintendo or something, like way back when, they had a thing with convenience stores where you could pay money to like overwrite the ROM inside and like change the game, but the same cartridge or something. And I remember reading that as a kid. I'm like, that sounds awesome. Like, why don't they do download stations, like, or just, you know, made for order, right? Like you can order a Switch game thing that comes with, you know, the latest version of this game with all the updates on it. Like, even if they have to like increase the size and cost more, it's still an option. And if it's made to order, they should have enough stock of the cards, I'd imagine. I don't know. Yeah. I'm too optimistic. I'm hoping that they find a solution, but they're not. And it's a problem.
It's extremely frustrating, especially like I think Soul Sacrifice is the perfect example of that, when you see like there's this amazing video game that so many people are never going to get to experience because this video game died on this console that you know, people just didn't pay attention to. And it's
also Nintendo, man. Did you see what, like, we've talked about this. I'm really upset at they're basically doing NFTs, in my opinion, in the fact that they're doing this limited digital sales of games. Like, to make a digital version only available for a select period of time is creating digital scarcity, and that's Mario or whatever. It
was one of the Super Marios. You could only buy it for a certain period of time. Yeah,
that left such a sour taste in my mouth. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. Which it's just, again, you go through a lot of the stuff that is happening in gaming, and there are so many of these publishers that it's just like, bro, like, do you respect the thing that you are working on, or do you just not care? You're just like, no, I'm gonna just do whatever it takes to make a buck, and y'all can go screw yourselves because we don't care. And it's like, come on, care at least a little bit about the art that you are selling to people, because video games are art.
So one of the moderators in my Discord had a really good idea for a video. But the thing is I'm so disconnected from the game at this point, from just Sunbreak, that I think that it's someone like you that should do it, or Eric's, or somebody, or even Rage Gaming could do it. But I think it's a good point, which is there's a lot of people who might be interested to get Rise on the consoles, which I think is great, and everyone should play it. It's a fun game. But knowing that there's going to be Sunbreak literally months later afterwards, there should be some nice sage advice of saying, hey, with hindsight, don't spend too much time doing this. So in the end, it's not going to matter so much. Like, here's where you're best to focus your efforts.
Don't grind.
Like
don't grind a million rampages, because that's literally going away.
Don't spend 10 years trying to get the perfect cat, and because they're more than powerful and they're going to change the system anyways later. Stuff like that, or just advice might be an interesting video to make. So if anybody makes it, I'll make sure to share it on Twitter, whether it's you guys or anybody else. Just let us know, reach out. But that's something that someone can do for the community. That would be helpful. I can't do it because I don't know well enough how to give the advice. I just don't. I'm gonna need that video, man, because it's gonna be on Game Pass. So I'm definitely gonna check it out on Xbox, because I am a Game Pass subscriber. So people say, "Oh, it's free." Well, it's not free. You're paying. But I want
to test out the haptic feedback stuff more than anything.
Exactly. That's the thing that I really want to test, because if the haptic is as good as they could make it, which is in battle, the strength and the velocity of each attack from each monster being unique, or even like the monster mounting, like if it feels different, that could be game changing. And that could be, or even the wire bug, if it feels like, if it feels really good. Like, have you played Ninja and FF14 on a controller?
No, I haven't.
It feels so good. Like, it's just the little areas where they add in just the right touch of vibration. It just feels so good. So
it reminds me a little bit of like No More Heroes, and how they implemented like the motion stuff that they did in the Wii. It was really good because it wasn't all the time. It was just like in specific key moments. Like for me, those key moments have to be like bullet barrage, wyvern fire, full burst. All of those need to have like a different texture to them, and I think that would be really, really cool. But
I'm excited for everybody though. Like, play it, love it. It's a good game. I'm really curious now about where are you feeling their release schedule is now falling when it comes to announcements and timing. Has it changed, or?
Yeah, I think it definitely has changed, because one of the things that I've been thinking in terms of Ryzen essentially being released on home consoles next year. It's like they're not going to be releasing that and then also releasing a brand new Monster Hunter in the same year. I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's not happening.
So I almost feel like their schedule is late. I kind of feel like hey, we need to polish this up some more before we show it to people. So I think that what would make sense, although again, I could be completely wrong. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow at the Game Awards they're like, Monster Hunter 6. There's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? But I think that potentially next Game Awards, you'd get an announcement, and then you'd potentially get a release within 6 months. Because I think that is the when, like, kind of like, I know that you're not a big fan of Wild Hearts, but I kind of feel like the way that they drop their game is the way to do it, which is like, hey, we're working on this game. Also, it's coming within 6 months. It wasn't even 6 months. It was less than that. But the 6-month release window, I feel like, is it just feels good. Because you're like, you see this. It's unlike, for instance, Starfield, which they announced
not like
back
Final Fantasy 16 or whatever, like Square Enix likes to announce stuff.
No, Square Enix wasn't even that bad. Like Bethesda, they're the ones that like,
they're worse?
Oh, we'll announce this shit. We'll announce this 1 decade before it comes out. And then when it's time to come out, we'll delay it too.
Yeah, but I think it's a good point, because I definitely think that the next big Monster Hunter will be most likely summer. I don't think they would go as far as fall, but you never know. But it's either going to be summer 24 or winter 24. Fall is a stupid period because it's right before holiday sales, so then there's pressure from retailers to discount it during the holidays. It's so much better to just throw it in the middle of the summer. Then they can also tell their investors about it a little earlier after it's been announced. Spring seems like it would be too early because their fiscal ending, you'd assume that it'd be like April, but that feels like it's really tight.
I think that 2024 spring, it might actually be maybe even a little bit earlier than spring.
Like May? Well, maybe. Well, in my eyes, May is like summer. So like, anytime after.
I don't know,
April
because like
1st.
Japanese companies, I feel like they've been loving that March window, dude. There's also another interesting thing about
That's the end of the fiscal. That's why.
Yeah, but
for a lot of companies here.
I think another interesting thing about Rise releasing in January is that it is shortly before Wild Hearts, which is something else that people like. They don't want Wild Hearts to like dominate too much. It's like, I don't know about that.
I don't think so. No, I don't think they're thinking about that at all.
Yeah, I don't
They
think
know
they're
that
too concerned.
they made a portable game, and they're porting it to consoles. I don't think I don't think
it's
this is any response.
a big strategy against like, oh, we got to move against Wild Hearts before they. It's like I'm gonna play Wild Hearts in February. I'll tell you that because I'm curious.
Not to mention, I can imagine someone like Tsujimoto's probably friends with Omega Force, right? I'm sure they're good with each other. So I don't see that at all. It's not like the Western companies, and sometimes are pretty cutthroat about that kind of stuff. This isn't their best, because Wild Hearts looks a hell of a lot better. So it'll appeal more to the mass than an older game being re-released.
Most likely. Yeah, but again, I'm still interested. I will probably check it out.
E3
Whether or not I do the grind, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, E3 is where generally I know Capcom loves to announce. So my thoughts were always that they would announce it at E3 this year and then release in like January, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I think you have a good point that next year
I think
E3
that the premiere
is too early, so maybe it would be game shows, or that seems like it would be a really good idea.
I think that currently the premier venues is the Keeley venues. I think those are like the premier announcement venues. So you're
Summer
looking
Game
at
Fest
Summer Game Fest or
Game
the
Awards,
Game Awards.
right?
Yeah, that's what I
make
would
the announcement, and then so it's either like, is it coming in spring, or is it, if it's coming early 24 or mid 24, and that'll determine where they announce it, so to say, probably.
Yeah,
I'm so excited at the prospect of a new Monster Hunter game.
So
wait.
It's
It's not that I don't love Sunbreak, because I love Sunbreak, but I'm like
before we jump into that, because I know I'm gonna stop you because there's a couple more things we want to talk about before we go into the Monster Hunter 6 thing. So number one, which you were actually the one who brought it up, which is Chaotic Gore Magala, because you said it was too easy for you. You were like, oh man, this is so easy.
I was kind of curious about everyone's thoughts, because I love Gore Magala. I love Chaotic Gore Magala. I love Shagaru. And I have fought in them so many times. It's like me and the All-Mother, right? Like, we did that thing so many times that we almost did it basically blindfolded, right? Like, you comes a point where you know the monster really well. So for me, it really wasn't a challenge, but it was a fun fight. I was kind of curious, like,
remember what I asked you?
Shagaru gave me hell in Sunbreak, though. The first fight, it kicked my ass. Yeah, maybe I was rusty. I don't know.
But you remember what I asked you when you told me, dude, Chaotic was really easy. What was the first question I asked you? Do you not remember?
Did you cart?
Did you take followers to that quest?
Oh, yeah.
Like I told you, followers make everything. Because like the first time I fought
was not aware of this.
Yeah.
The first time I fought, for who are not aware.
Wait. The first time I fought Chaotic Gore Magala, this was on stream, and he carded me twice, just like straight up. I was having the thing was, I was also having a blast because they changed some stuff in Gunlance that made me really happy. Like Hail Cutter, they made it only one wire bug, and I was like, bro, Hail Cutter's back, woo! And I was just like jumping all over the place. Hail Cutter, this is so much fun. And so, as I was experimenting this new play style, Chaotic Gore Magala, I was just like, oh, you think you're having fun?
Yeah,
you think this is fun in games? He carded me twice. And the next time that I went up against him solo, he carded me twice again. And he's carded me twice quite a few times, so he is challenging. And it's particularly interesting, like when he's in his death throes. I almost feel like there's a lot of monsters that feel like that when they're about to die. They just like go berserk.
Get really all at it, yeah.
So he's got me off guard a couple of times like that, and I loved it. But when I started looking into Gore Magala's like armor and stuff like that, and it was very interesting to read the descriptions of Chaotic Gore Magala.
I have not read that.
Yeah, they talk about how it's like a struggle between the heavens and because like there's this whole thing about Gore Magalas, they ascend when they become Shigarus, right? They ascend and they become
like,
this divine creature almost. They become an elder dragon. And
it's edgelord stuff, you know?
Yeah,
like
it's edgelord stuff, but they talk about how, the Gore Magalas, they're trying to claw at the heavens. They're like demons, and then the Shigaru Magala, they're like angels. And it's really cool. I was reading into it, and then I put out a video talking about these things and the description of the armor and whatnot and the struggle that exists within a chaotic Shigaru Magala. And people brought up some more information that I think they pulled up from Bandino tweets and stuff like that. And it's just the lore around chaotic Gore Magala it just really got me super captivated, because like, you want to know why chaotic Gore Magalas don't evolve? This was told to me in the comment section. I wasn't even aware of this.
I wonder if this is what I'm thinking, but go ahead.
It's because when the Shigarus evolve, they spread their venom all over an area, right? And if there's a Gore Magala trying to evolve into a Shigaru Magala there, then that stuff gets interrupted because the Shigaru poison is more powerful and it stops their mutation. And then they're stuck.
And they're bound to die.
Yeah, they're bound to die because the Shigaru Magala part of it is consuming the Gore. Yeah, it's eating away at him. And I thought that was so well represented in the cutscene that they did, the ecology cutscene, because you see him falling down and he's like, why was I, denied entrance to heavens? And it's just so cool. Like, I was blown away by it. What
is the set name called in English? Because I love the Japanese name.
It's just called Chaotic, I think.
Okay, because in Japanese, if I'm not mistaken, has always been called the Nephilim set.
Yeah, the Nephilim set. This was called, I think it was called the Nephilim set in different, in other versions, like in Generations and stuff like that. I think they might have called it the Nephilim set.
Such a cool-ass monster, though, isn't it?
That's the other thing, because like, I've heard of Nephilim, but in the concept of the game Diablo, which is like your character supposedly a Nephilim, like the child of demons and angels or whatever. That's like, there's something there. And I was almost thinking, this is so interesting, because like I was actually thinking about the concept of Nephilim from Diablo when I was thinking about Chaotic Gore Magala, but I didn't bring it up. And then turns out that's the name of the goddamn set. And I was like, whoa. So yeah, it's super cool. I love the fight. I think it was amazing. I think they did it really well, and I was fascinated.
It's 10 out of 10 chef kiss in my opinion, but it's interesting though, because I thought it was a little easy. And I didn't know, also I'm using dual blades, and dual blades has the adept evade, which is so damn good against monsters like that. You see the burst coming, you just right through it. It's like, it's really good against monsters that like to charge or do stuff at you. But yeah, it's like you said, I did not realize that followers who are fun as hell, and I don't ever want to fight without followers anymore because it's so fun.
The problem is
they don't scale the difficulty.
They don't. So
you're getting like a free hunter or two, because they actually do really good.
Yeah, that's like, this is something where I'm very conflicted when it comes to followers, because followers kind of promote a very antisocial playstyle in the game. And for me, I'm already playing very antisocial because there's problems with the Steam version. I don't want to mod my game. I know that you can mod the game, and I know that you can do all of these different things.
Hey, you got the Windows version.
Yeah, exactly. But you can mod the game. You can do a bunch of stuff to make sure that your matchmaking works. But the matchmaking does not work by default properly on Steam. Yeah, there's problems there because when I've been grinding, one of the things that a lot of people say is like, oh, you can you can go and match up with people, and you can join their game, and then you can get specific investigations added to yours. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I made a video talking specifically about that, except now I can't get matched up with anybody, and that is kind of a problem because you aren't able to do certain investigations that other players might have, because that's kind of like the basis of investigations. You're supposed to try and join other people to get the investigations that you need in order to, get the materials that you require. So with you not being able to do that because of all these region restrictions and all of this stuff, then followers becomes a fantastic feature, because like, hey, I'll just grab these and I'll go grind and it's whatever. But the problem is, for a lot of players, they'll just jump in with followers, and it's effectively just like, hey, I'm gonna turn on the difficulty to
Lower
easy
the
mode
difficulty
now.
down. Yeah.
Because
Man, I'll tell you one thing though. Luchka, man, she died like 6 times against Chaotic because she does not want to move. She's just like, I'm going for it, and he's like,
if you bring Hinoa, she'll die less. Because Hinoa heals a ton. Because there's actually a lot more to the followers, which I never really noticed. But like, if you actually read the followers, they'll tell you the style that the follower has besides just the skills. And like, certain followers have special things. So for instance, if you take Fugen has toads. He throws toads. He has a bag of toads that was given to him by Hojo, and he just throws them. And there are other followers that have things like that. Well, they'll use more things that, each follower has like their specialty thing that they do. And Hinoa, she just like spams life powders. Just like, oh, you got hit, life powder. She's almost a corner horner spamming life powders. That's what Hinoa does.
Jesus.
But
so do you think that Monster Hunter should come up with a way to make it, because right now there's no distinction between playing solo. So I say the easiest right now is playing with followers, which is fun as hell, but it's easier. Then you've got the solo, then you've got online that scales, but the rewards never change for any of these. Like, do you think that's a problem, or do you think that's fine? There's no incentive to play it harder, so to say, or even with other people. There's no like bonus thing that you can do or get. Like, it's just a choice.
The biggest thing about it is that every player enjoys the game in a different way, and it's hard to try and, at this point, whenever the developer gives you so many choices, it then becomes a thing of like, oh, this is the right way to play, this is the wrong way to play. And whenever we talk about this, there are players that will go out of their way saying, oh, well, Rurikhan and Gaijin said this is the right way to play, so you're clearly playing the game wrong. There's no right way to play. You play however you want.
Play it however's most enjoyable. For me, it's fun. With followers.
Yeah. So the thing about it for me is like, I think the most enjoyable way to play the game right now is potentially 2 players. Because the monster is not completely overwhelmed that it can't react at all, but at the same time...
And it can't insta-wipe you either.
Yeah. At the same time, it is more challenging, and you are with a friend, and it makes the whole thing much more interesting. But I also think that it would be 2 players, no pets. I think that would be the most interesting way to play. 2 players, no pets. But... again, I'm not saying this is the right way to play. I'm saying that this, to me, would be the most appealing way to play. But then again, this is also how I kind of like learned how to play Monster Hunter. It was me and a friend playing Freedom Unite. Then eventually it was me and that friend playing like 4 Ultimate and so on and so forth, right? And so that to me is the most fun way to play the game. And I think that is still the most fun way to play the game. Just 2 hunters going at it, because once you bring in 3 or 4, which is still fine if this is the way you want to play, but I feel like once you cross the threshold of 2 hunters, the monsters have become too easy to handle because
because their focus is taken, right? So
their focus gets taken between 3 players, and if they're focusing 1 player, then the other 2 come in and just wail on him, and then he swaps to somebody else, and the other 2 just, that's kind of what tends to happen. And that's fine.
Yeah, 2 is a really good experience.
Yeah, I think 2 is the best experience. But when you now have followers as well, and it's 2 followers, each of the followers has 2 pets, which can be potential targets as well. So now the monster has you as a target, 2 followers as additional targets, 2 pets from the followers as additional targets, and 2 pets from you as additional targets.
It's
that
unfair.
That just completely chomps down the difficulty, which to me, as someone who wants to grind all the way into Anomaly rank like God knows how much, it's like, hey, now the grind's a lot easier. I just go in with all these followers. There's one of the followers that heals me nonstop, which is Noah. There's the other follower that I usually take is Luchika, because she just like fires and KOs monsters. She's a beast. And, we just go through. The thing is this the best possible experience of Monster Hunter? And I don't think that it is, but I know that a lot of people enjoy it, so there's nothing wrong with that. I myself enjoy going in with followers and just blasting a couple of monsters, but it does have a tendency to burn me out faster because it's not challenging anymore.
Yeah, it feels a little, not easier, it's just, you don't have to be as focused.
Yeah. Pretty much. You can like be watching Netflix on the side while you're grinding.
Yeah. But man, do I love the followers. They are so fun.
Yeah, they're really good.
I think that's the takeaway this time for me is that follower update, godly. Finally letting people have talismans with a skill they want. Great update. Chaotic Magala, 10 out of 10. Chef kiss.
But see, I think that just to put a pin on the followers thing, I think that followers could have been way cooler if it was, let's say the monster gets scaled up to 1.5, as opposed to like, by 1.5 I mean like half of the usual scaling of what you'd get for 2 players, right? And it would just be you and the follower, no pets. I think that would be more interesting because
I thought that's what they were going to do.
They were going to scale it a little bit, but no, they didn't.
Yeah, that's what I thought they would have done, and so it's a little. I kind of wish they had the option, right? Because I do like the difficulty of 2 players without constantly tripping the monster all over the place. But I do love the followers as well. I imagine the best experience will be bringing 1 follower, but like they're so fun. I can't help myself.
Yeah,
I gotta bring a second one.
It's the same for me when I'm grinding. But then when I eventually get the quest, like for instance, like I told you, when Chaotic Gore Magala came out, I'm like, no followers. We go in, just me and the Palicos and the Chaotic Gore Magala, and let's go to town.
Yeah.
And that to me is, that's the way that I want to do it. So like when if I eventually even get it, because I'm beginning to question if I'll actually get to Anomaly rank 200, because it's just too much. And
I don't even want to try.
There's the risk of me burning out to a point where I'll actually become antagonized towards the game, and that's something that I don't want to do because there is the risk.
That's actually
you start resenting the game because of
that's
how
something I wanted
much
to mention. Yeah, because I was mentioning to you the other day that I was like, I think I should stop playing Sunbreak because I've hit a point where I've been away from it for so long that when I come back and I want to engage in something, but I see like this weird artificial grind or wall that's higher than I think it should be. Like I'm starting to see the negatives pronounced more than I probably should. And it makes me like, okay, I should just not force this because if I do, I will resent it and I shouldn't because it's a fun game. And it's unfortunate that I feel that the wall is too high to get back in, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. So I made a video not that long ago where I said, almost there. That's the only thing that says in the video. It's like, I'm almost there. Because I've been grinding to be able to upgrade gun lances. Because like, how they've said, we're going to be able to upgrade shelling level from 7 to 8 on all gun lances. And I was like, yes, this is going to be amazing. And then it comes out and you need materials for monsters at Anomaly rank 141. Now, I'm someone who is already very close to 120, but I stopped at like 1 or 2 hunts away. We talked about this in the last podcast. I stopped 1 or 2 hunts away from getting to 120 because I began feeling burned out. And rather than getting to that point that I see a lot of people getting where they're like, oh, this is too much. I hate this game. I'm just like, no, I'll just stop playing and then I'll get back to playing whenever I feel like playing it. And that's the point where I've reached 141. I have the 2 monsters that I need because I've grinded them up to 141. Because it wasn't just reaching Anomaly research rank 141. You needed to reach that to be able to bring monsters up to that level. And so then you need to bring the monsters that you need up to that level as well. So I did all of that grind to get those monsters in there. And then I killed my very first 141 monster, which was, I forget which one it was at this point. But whatever. It was the first one that I needed. It was either Seething Basil Goose or Flaming Espinas or something like that. So I killed the very first one. No, a Scorn Magnamalo. That's the one that it was. And then I was like, okay, now, and it generated another quest for me that it's like, okay, now I have the Flaming Espinas, which has the other material that I need. And that's where I'm at right now because I didn't want it to instantly jump back in and go grind out another monster.
Yeah. See, my hope is that maybe they improve it so it's not as grindy because I do feel like, personally, I think it's too grindy.
Now listen,
they need to loosen up.
Let me hit you with another one now because you have no idea what comes next. So I told you that you need 141 to upgrade your gun lances to shelling level 8. But that's if you want to upgrade from 7 to 8. But some gun lances are shelling level 6.
Oh, good God.
So then you have to go from 6 to 7, and then from 7 to 8. And those gun lances, it's not Anomaly research rank 141.
Oh, no.
It's
Don't tell me
181.
Oh, Lord. I still think, man, people will disagree with me, but it feels like they're grinding it like it's an MMO that you pay monthly for. I don't know why they need that much retention.
It's a
like,
lot. And it's like, I was talking to a friend of mine who is playing bow, because I was just like, dude, are gun lances the only weapons that have to deal with this? And he was like, no, with my bow, I have to go to 161. And I was like, oh my God. Because you can get like elemental upgrades for the bows or something like that, and that will be at 161, materials from certain monsters at 161. Yeah. So I think my friend was grinding an Azuros to 161. I was like, oh no. Oh.
Yeah, my dream is that it's a different case, so it's not the same, but I very much did not enjoy the guiding lands in Iceborne at first.
I love
but when I went back to it later after they made some really great quality of life improvements, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I'm curious if they're going to do anything to the Anomaly grind in the future that will make me enticed to come back and really get into it. Maybe.
Here's the thing though, like I love the Anomaly grind. The thing that is bothering me is like, I want to try out all of these different builds. So it's I would be grinding this after I did my build, but because I have to grind it in order to get my build, that bothers me because I'm playing with this old build that I've made. And it's like, I want to get to the new one, but I can't because I got to grind this all the way to like 141. I think it's a lot, but I know that a lot of players love it. And I think, hey, that's great if you guys are enjoying it. And I love the grind as well. Don't get me wrong. I love grinding it. I just feel like I want to try out new play styles, and I can't unless I do the grind. And that's just like, there's friction there for me. Especially like, there's a really good shelling level 6 gun lance that has a ton of water damage, for instance, which is the Almudron gun lance. And it's shelling level 6. And I want to play that gun lance with shelling level 8 so that I can do poke, shell, poke, and tons of elemental damage. And it requires me to get to 188 Anomaly to even be able to do that. And it just feels like weird. A bit much.
Yeah. I was going to say, I wanted to do a quick follow-up because I know a lot of people who listen to the podcast or follow even me on YouTube don't follow me on Twitter, which I don't blame them because I tweet too much. But I wanted to do a quick follow-up only. That last time we talked about the master rank point where I felt it was too high, I actually put in the time and research to look into it. Yes. So I wanted to quickly present the data that I came up to. So just so people know, like in general, the last boss of the game will give you about 1,232 points, which is pretty respectable. One of the more popular quests was taken on like a double Diablos quest. That was like 1,432 points. Then there's those quests where you have like the 4 like bosses like Gore, Magala, Rajang, Tigrex, or whatever. That gave 2,400 MRP, which is really good. So they released an event quest it's just an arena against Gore Magala, so it's very fun, but it's also very grindy because it's just Magala in the arena. It gives you 3,520 points.
Oh my God.
That's so this is more than double the last boss in a fraction of the time, right? So then it takes, I would say, the average player maybe 10 minutes, maybe 10 to 13 probably to take this thing down. If you're with a group with bow guns and all that, yeah, it'll be faster, but you know what I mean, right? Like the average person just going in to play. So the way that works is, one, I don't like the idea that instead of making a global adjustment to MRP, they're just giving you one event quest, because it makes it so like if you're not doing Gore, then what are you doing, bro? Kind of idea.
If you need master rank, yes.
Yeah. So, but it's incredibly efficient at getting you to MR50. You only have to do approximately 15 of these event quests, which is about 3.5 hours, and that will get you to 50. So like it scales very nicely in the beginning. So then you go, okay, well, how about 50 to 100? And it's a lot, but it's not impossible, right? Because the the next jump, because the MRP, I don't know if people know this, scales on the level tiers all the way up to 999. It keeps getting higher and higher, but the MRP that you're earning is not getting higher.
Yeah.
So for the next, from 50 to 100, it's 117,000 MRP, which is about 7.5 hours of grinding Gore Magalas. You'd have to do it 34 times.
So that's 10
hours. So if you want to do
hours.
last bosses, that would be 68 last bosses.
Oof.
Yeah, it's rough as hell.
So with
right?
the Gore Magala, you're talking about 10 hours of Gore Magala killing to get to 100.
No break grinded, yeah. Now the thing is, 100 I think is the right number, because 100 is one that people will naturally get, whether they're casual or mid-core. Hardcore people are going to be well above it anyway, so
yes.
like I don't, there's no issues there. But to say like, okay,
I had a friend of mine that was actually telling me, oh, Gaijin's complaining about master rank. It's not that big of a deal. And I was like, well, it's not that big of a deal because you've been playing that account since the beginning of Sunbreak. If you had to start over, it becomes a big deal. Trust me, because
it's a big deal.
This is something that I'm considering because I miss playing on my Switch. It's just the portability of the device is very important for me. And I know that some people will say...
go back and grind that MR again.
Yeah, some people will say like Steam Deck, which I could go on a whole tirade about Steam Deck, but it's like, let's just say for my own personal reasons, I prefer the Switch. And it's like, I logged back in and I was, I'm Master Rank 9. I'm going to go back to PC now. This is like, it's a big deterrent.
Yeah. So then you got, and this is where it gets ridiculous in my opinion. So Master Rank 100 to 140, which is what you need to get to Teo, right? Yes. I imagine that when they add in other ones, it's going to be 160, 180.
And by the way, everyone,
whatever.
Before you mention in the comments section, we are aware that if you're Master Rank 10, you can have a friend host the quest for you. Gaijin is aware of this.
That just defeats to me, that just defeats the argument of why this wall needs to be this high.
Yes.
Because they're like, well, you just have somebody host it for you. Oh, so you're just admitting that this is a completely artificial, arbitrary number. It doesn't matter. If this is just meant to guard people from being undergeared into your hunt so they're not carding because of Alatra and Fatalis trauma, this ain't it, because this is something, it's like the mentor system in Final Fantasy 14. If you just put the time in, whether you play good or you're geared or not, you're going to be the master rank. It's a time commitment, not a skill commitment, not a gear commitment. There's no, like, they didn't say, okay, you have to clear this quest. Like,
you can get really high by killing like friggin' Gridizuchis.
Yeah. So that's not it, boss. So, but to get the next 40 levels, remember, we just did 15 for the first 50.
Yes.
34 of this crazy event. And this is the best event in the game for MRP. If you want to have variation and not grind it and get burnt out, it's going to take you much, much longer.
Yes.
100 to 140, they scale it up to 137,000 MRP. So now it's going to take you 40 Gore Magalas, approximately 8.5 hours to 9 hours.
It's about 20 hours. 20 hours of grinding seems easy to me, Gaijin. I don't say... 20
yeah,
hours
exactly,
of
right? People are like,
non-stop Gore Magala.
Gore Magala. And if you were to, like, I mean, you're saying, okay, 20 of the last boss. Yeah, that's like triple that if you were doing the last boss or any other normal master rank quest. Unless you're doing an MRP giving quest, you're screwed. Like, it's going to take if you just play the game normally, like 100 hours, yeah, of course you'll get it. But it's like, is that really necessary? Is that really solving the problem? Especially with, like you said, with new platforms being added constantly, it seems. I don't want to restart that grind over. I just hit MR 50 on the PC version.
See,
I don't want to go to 140.
It's like, I don't have a problem with the master rank grind personally. I know that this is a problem for you because you're like restarting.
Me, yeah.
It's like a thing. To me, the biggest problem that I have right now is that for a returning player, it's not even a problem that I have myself. I'm just thinking about, because whenever I'm thinking about a game, I'm always thinking about what is the new player experience like, because that is kind of the lifeblood of the game, is when you have new players coming in. Now, in the case of Monster Hunter, you don't need the new players to come in. It's not like it's an MMO or anything. But I still think it's healthy for the company to constantly be seeing like a steady influx of players, and that makes the franchise itself be more successful. But for a new player experience, to get to the point where I'm at, which I'm not even that far ahead, remember, you have to do not only this grind that you just talked about for the master rank, Which
The
again,
anomaly grind,
you're talking about 20 hours to get to 140, which unlocks all of the monsters for you, unless you want to get somebody to bring these monsters in, host them in your lobby, and then you can go in with Master Rank 10 or whatever. But you're talking about 140 to be able to summon all these monsters yourself. And then on top of it, you're talking about another Master Rank grind, which is the Anomaly rank grind, to, unlock materials to really further enhance all of your gear and do the curious armor crafting and curious weapon crafting and all of this shenanigans. And that's a lot. That's a lot of grind for a new player. That is something that you're going to be seeing players do when it comes to the PlayStation and the Xbox, assuming that people will want to even engage in that grind.
Yeah, I mean, and the only thing, correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing that you technically kind of need or want to do that grind for is the really high, like Camilio, Skushala, and Teo, right? Like the curious versions, because Kayak Gore Magala, I'm obviously not all, completely, beefed up, and I was able to beat it.
Yeah, it's Master Rank 10. Kayak Gore Magala is Master Rank 10.
So the motivation for doing all this incredible amount of augmentation, it's just a handful of monsters, and they're probably going to add more. But
the motivation for me is to get to the
right?
That's not even there's the play styles, but the motivation to me is to eventually go and fight the hardest possible thing you can imagine at
monster in the game,
Anomaly rank 200. The problem is it takes so goddamn long to get there, because I want to make my build. I want to get my build, and then I want to kill something really, really hard. That's the thing that I want to do. But Jesus, do you have to grind yourself into a fine pulp in order to get there?
Yeah. Well, you won't have a shortage of shit to do if you pick up the game and you want to get to the end. There's plenty of gameplay for you to do.
The biggest complaint of Monster Rise, there's too much content.
Too much to do. Which is funny, because that was the complaint I had about Double Cross, was that there was too many monsters and everyone thought it was insane. They probably still think it. Yeah. But when there's too much to do, it becomes a little much.
I think the biggest complaint for a lot of people now is that, at least this is something I've seen in my comment section quite a bit, is that there's a lot of people that think the Anomaly grind is too much. And I think that the reasoning is a lot of people are kind of forcing themselves to do it. Whereas me, I'm like, I'll do it, and then I don't feel like doing it. I'll take a break and I'll go do something else.
Yeah, don't do it.
And then I'll come back and I'll play it later. That's the way that I've been tackling it.
Yeah. Just makes me question whether or not it's a healthily designed system, if that's the healthy mentality, is to stop playing it when you get tired. I don't know.
I mean, I don't see any other way. That's just the thing. Because I love the Anomaly system, but I would like to go through the Anomaly system and just hunt whatever shows up, right? It's like, oh, I got this crazy quest. Let me go do this quest. But in reality, that ends up being counterproductive, because, I could do this quest. That's going to slow down my progress on this ranking thing. Also, these monsters don't give the materials that I actually need for my upgrades, so I need to keep upgrading these other monsters that do give the materials that I need. And it becomes, your objectives are maybe not... You're maybe not fulfilling your objectives by doing what you consider to be the most fun in the game, which is kind of like where I think
I don't know the system well enough. I could be completely wrong here, but it almost sounds like, for someone who hasn't done the Anomaly grind, that it would have been better if they just made it more like a currency, like curious whatever, like crystals, and like you get 1 for an easy monster, 4 for an intermediate, 8 for a harder one. Therefore, you can do whatever you want. It's just more productive to do a harder quest.
Part of it works like that. So, like, for instance, the curious armor crafting, the random bit, it works like that. So it doesn't matter what you hunt. You always get this, I forget what the name of it is, Ember Essence or whatever. There's a prime version of Ember. There's like 3 different versions of Ember Essence. All of them worth different points. The harder the monster is, the more of that stuff you'll get, right? And then you go and you use that to upgrade your armor. The problem is, when it comes to the deterministic part of things, which is the curious weapon crafting, that requires specific materials. So that'll be like, no, you need an Urzuros for this material, and that Urzuros needs to be Anomaly level 161. So it's not just you grind your Anomaly level, you also need to grind this Urzuros on top of that. So you're kind of like, oh, then I should just be fighting this monster over and over and over to bring it up to the proper rank in order to be able to do the thing that I want to do. So yeah, that's that.
Interesting.
But we got some very new creative skills, which I know you want to talk about. One in specific, which is the Berserk
your
skill.
take on that.
So
yes,
the Berserk skill
crazy.
seems crazy. I don't know how people have been using it, because as someone that uses the gun lance, the Berserk skill is not make or break for me really, because the gun lance is a lot about shelling damage, and the fact, this increases all of your elemental damage and all of this stuff, and it's like, well, that's great and all, but doesn't really do much for me. But you can also become invincible. But I think that in order to become invincible,
YouTube is filled with, you literally cannot die. In Japan's the same. There's videos all over like, this build is broken as shit.
So I've been purposefully avoiding it, because I remember how obsessed I was during base rise with longsword, because longsword is just so goddamn good, and I was always looking at longswords like, so I'm just like, whatever. Of course, there's going to be broken stuff. Dereliction was already broken if you knew what you were doing, right? So the thing is, in order for the Berserk build to work, I believe you're supposed to eat the fish, right? The maintenance fish that regens your health or whatever.
There's other way. Like I've seen some videos where you can do it with a bow, where you just hit the healing shot, the arc shot, and it will counterbalance all of it.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things, but basically it adds more maintenance. And as someone that plays Gunlance, I'm like, dude, I already have so much goddamn maintenance on my build. The last thing I want is more maintenance. So I've steered clear of it. It's like, I don't care too much about it. I feel like this has taken Arcade Monster Hunter to the 11th degree. So the fact that there's a build that both makes her immortal and supercharges her elemental damage, I'm like, yeah, that seems about right. That's about what I would expect. It's not something that surprises me too much, and it doesn't bother me too much either, because, like I said, there's going to be broken stuff. At the end of the day, if you're too much concerned about Berserk, let me point you towards bowguns. Bowguns have been broken since forever. In every single Monster Hunter game, bowguns are literally broken in every conceivable way. It's like, I can kill this monster in 10 minutes. A bowgun can do it in half that time. Yeah. Why? I don't know. It's like, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah, it's just the way that it goes. But there are two other interesting skills that I'm not sure if you've played around with. So the Kushala Daora, the Risen Kushala Daora skill is Wind Mantle.
I can't fight it. So I don't.
All right, because you can only fight Chaotic Gore, so you can only play around with Berserk.
Yeah.
But what
does it do?
It's Wind Mantle, and basically the more you use Silkbind skills, the faster your Silkbinds recover, so long as you are in combat until you sheath your weapon. I think that
Shoryugeki builds?
I think that Chaos Slayer was saying that you could bullet barrage every 10 seconds or something like that. Which I'm like, that actually sounds like really fun. I got to try that out. I haven't tried it out yet, because I've been playing with the other skill that I think is really cool, which is the Risen Teostra one, which is called Powder Mantle. So the way that one works is like, you attack, and after you do a certain number of attacks, which with the gun lance is fairly easy because you do either full burst or a bullet barrage or something, and it just like ramps up attacks like crazy. Your character gets the Teostra Mantle, the effect of the powder around.
That like nothing hits you?
No.
Okay, like the
blast
sort of like
powder.
Molten blast powder, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like blast powder around you. You get that, and that becomes orange, and then 20 seconds later, it swaps to blue. If you get hit while you have that, it interrupts it, and you take a little bit of damage. If not, then the next attack that you land on the monster is going to deal bonus damage based on the raw of your weapon, which with my gun lances, I've hit it for like 800 damage at some point. And it's not even a particularly it's like a 320
That's
raw
neat, though.
gun lance.
It gives you a period where you try very hard not to get hit. That sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even getting hit, it is getting knocked back. So you can get hit by those stupid little bites and stuff, and that won't stop you.
Yeah.
But if you get knocked back, then it's like, okay, now it exploded and your stuff goes away.
So that sounds like it would be really fun on a lance. Or even an insect glaive, because you'd have to be really careful about your approach, but when you nail it, it's because you put in the work and you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah, whenever, and it's especially, it feels doubly good when you're doing anomalies, because with the anomalies, you have the thing where you're attacking the curio spots and they pop.
More explosions,
so it's like,
yeah.
Boom, you just see, you just see like the gun lance, there's the explosions of the gun lance, there's the explosion of the powder mantle, and then you pop a curio at the same time for 1,000 damage. It's like, boom. I love it. I love that.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, that
just makes me more sad that I can't fight it.
That one's really been like a core skill from day one. That was the first thing that I did. I was like, oh, dude, more I didn't even knew what it did back then. I was like, powder mantle, an explosion? Yes, I want more explosions on my gun lens. So I just literally just went ahead and I made like 3 pieces of Teostra and then remade my whole set around it.
Or Magnamalo with his useless Hellfire skill.
No, I use it. I use Hellfire. Really? Yeah, dude, Hellfire Cloak is amazing when you're playing Gunlance because you have the reverse blast dash, right?
Yeah.
So reverse blast dash, what it does is you turn it around and you charge into the monster and it hits the monster in the face with the shield. Every time you reverse blast dash and you have the Hellfire skill, it drops the mine.
Does it drop it?
Yes. So you reverse blast dash, it does the mine, and then on top of it, right after you hit the monster, you slam and full burst.
Yeah.
And it's like, so good.
Okay, that sounds good. I did not know that. Does that work? Does it work well with other weapons, or you just know about the gun lance it works well with?
I mean, it works well with any weapon that has like a type of movement that charges. But the problem is, for other weapons, there's usually other skills that you can get. So whereas I will spend I'll spend like 3 points in Hellfire. Another weapon might be just like, well, I could just get 3 points in attack up and deal more damage.
Yeah.
The thing is, Gunlance can't really benefit that much from attack up. So you spend those 3 points in the middle of Hellfire, and that's 100 damage every time. It's about 100 damage, 100 and something damage every time on top of the rest of the damage you'll deal. It is.
Nice.
It's so much fun. I love it. And the amount of like invincibility frames you get from reverse blast dash is just like, oh man, it's so good. It's going to be very hard to go back to like regular Monster Hunter if we don't get all of these skills again. It's friggin' wild.
Well, I'm happy that they're experimenting with different skills. It's one of the things that I've always want them to do in every game is to play around, see what works, what doesn't work, because we do need more variation. So more variation, the better. So that's just good.
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of potential builds. Like I said, I also want to experiment with a Kushala, Daora, Bullet Barrage spam with just like, non-stop spamming Bullet Barrage. But I just haven't gotten around to it.
You know what I think Monster Hunter Rise needs, like for Sunbreak? Thinking about status abnormalities and new skills, and just for the fact that I think it's only flagship without a variant. Why have they not put in a variant for Sedegios yet? It is the perfect monster to put a variation because it's super aggressive, takes to the air, has all these like, they could do something like the Razor Talon Sedegios or something, make it like crazy. I don't know, but like, it feels like it's due for a variant, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Or am I the only one who feels that? I really want it.
Very much so. I want more monsters because it feels like adding monsters onto Rise is not as complex as it would have been to add monsters onto World and Iceborne, for multiple reasons. Because like you look at World and Iceborne, they were using the RE framework as opposed to the not RE framework. It was empty framework instead of the RE engine, and it seems like they have much bigger mastery of the RE engine, and also the monsters aren't as detailed as they were in World and Iceborne. So it just seems like, hey, just keep adding more. I mean, they have been adding more monsters than they have for World and Iceborne, which is a good thing. But people will always come up with the whole thing about, it's just a reskin. Like they'll say that a risen monster is a reskin. It's like, bro. I mean, it is literally a reskin. You're not wrong, but the monster itself behaves completely different than the regular version. But whatever.
For me, the game, 3 things they can add, and I'd be like, I mean, I've given up on the idea that they're going to add in like a big scale event hunt like Jin Moran or whatever, or Don Moran. But if they add these 3 things, I will just be over the top, and I'll probably come back just to play them. As long as they don't make it like MR200 to go fight them, but I want to see a new version of Sedegios.
Dude,
I want Molten Tigrex. This is the perfect game for him to come back.
We just need to grind you up. We'll just tell you what. You find like a late evening. Listen, a late evening, and we'll just do it live in my channel. Just the two of us doing like hunts and stuff.
I'll think about it, but there's just something about the fact that, hey, let's grind and bypass this wall. Feels, you know what I mean? I just don't.
Don't look at it like that. Just look at it like, hey, I want to build like
for a long
set
time
or something.
Yeah.
And we'll just go do work on a set or something, and then we'll figure it out. It's not the end of the world.
Okay,
just play the game for playing the. Like, let's not do 10 hours of Gore Magala. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. No.
Like we'll interweave a couple of them in between. Like, hey, let's get like a nice boost in hunter rank for one hunt. Go in there, brutalize that Gore Magala, come back.
Yeah,
I'll be your follower, Gaijin. There you go.
Much dies less than Luchika.
Yeah. Like I told you, bring in Hinoa. She won't die at all. Like I bring Luchika and Hinoa, and they barely ever she dies. But I'm probably going to start bringing.
It sounds like a really good combo. I've never tried it.
Yeah, because like you have the thing is, if you look at the support focus, they'll tell you like how offensive they are and all of that. And Hinoa is very much like focused on supporting and healing. And Luchika is like offensive at all costs, never backs down. This is like that's her thing.
Oh yeah, she was standing in front of Chaotic Magala when he was charging up to the big thing. She like, I ain't moving. I'm committed. She's like a black mage, man. She's just like, I'm committed, man.
She's sitting there and she's going like, I bet you're gonna blink before I do. There's this big monster about to murder her. She's like,
I'm not going nowhere.
Do you see me hesitating? I'm not. Did I stutter? I'm not stuttering.
I love that though. Like the faulty AI, like doing things to a fault is so good.
That is
AI. It's so easy to make something that's just way too systematic or mechanical, so to say.
Yeah,
I think they really nailed it. So,
okay.
I guess the last question for Rise is: we've got the Elder Dragon. Everybody and their Palico thinks it's Amatsu. Do you agree? Yes, no? What do you hope to see?
It definitely looks like it'll be Amatsu. I'm not super excited about it being Amatsu. Like, for starters, I don't have nostalgia for Amatsu like a lot of people do because they played Portable Third. I'm not saying I don't want to see it because, like, I think it'll be a cool monster as well. But
I hope they overhaul the fight if it is, because it's not. It reminds me of Fatalis, right? I have good fond memories of it.
Yeah,
and I love the music. I love the visuals. But the fight itself, I mean, there were some cool aspects to it, like they would call it the Daison in Japan, where it does like the whirlwind that sucks you in, because it's like a very powerful vacuum. But I hope that they revamp it in the way that they revamped Fatalis. But I may be just setting the bar too high, because
the Fatalis revamp was just like a unique moment in Monster Hunter
history. So godly.
I feel like it's really good.
Alatreon is just like, mwah.
Yeah. Very much. Did you see the Twitter post I made a while back?
No.
Where I just said,
probably not. Maybe
for all those of you that review bombed Monster Hunter World because of Alatreon, and then there's just a picture of Alatreon with the words, "Your tears were delicious." And I will quadruple down on that post. I don't give a damn. If you review bombed my game because it was too hard for you because you're too much of a little baby. Your tears were delicious.
If I was romanticizing the memory of it, so me and Yuna, actually about a month ago, we went back to Iceborne to fight it. Like, straight out, have not played Iceborne since we went crazy on it for a year. Went back, first thing we do, we go into Alatreon and we killed it. And it was so fun.
It is.
And felt so different. And I'm just like, my appreciation for Iceborne daily grows and grows, and my fondness for that game. I figured I may as well call it, because at this point, Sunbreak is near its end, I would say. I mean, it's not over yet, but I think I always said, will this take the king of my personal favorite? And it's definitely up on my list. I love the game. And it's a really good, what I would say, like a spin-off game. Like, it does feel like the Street Fighter Alpha, which I like. It's different. But I do think I think to this date, Iceborne is probably my favorite Monster Hunter game, even more than 4U, because when I went back to 4U, some things were just really did not age well.
It's you have a lot of like nostalgia for 4U. Like I remember
I played it with my daughter as well.
I emulated
Iceborne.
I emulated for you for a little bit because I wanted to see what it would look like with a proper controller without having to deal with the 3DS thing and whatnot. And I went in there with the gun lens and I was like, oh wow, these moves, man, this is this is rough coming from Sunbreak to this. Yeah. It's like, whoa.
Not my gun lens.
I kind of like, this is some really slow ass gun lens. I can't even dodge forward. What are you talking about? This is some wild. It's like I'd love to do it again, but it's very hard to get back in there and play it with my. I'd probably have to like play Sword and Shield if I wanted to go back and play through that again, because it's just Sword and Shield, just a much more accessible weapon. I feel like, but it's interesting that you say now that like Iceborne is probably your favorite Monster Hunter. When I remember back in World. When World came out, you didn't play it nearly as much as you had the previous Monster Hunters. I remember that you liked it, but you didn't play it as much.
Iceborne really hooked me in. It was much more than World did.
Yeah. But there's
parts of World I really liked, but there's parts that just it didn't hook me in for long term. And then Iceborne I loved, and then I didn't like the end game, and I went away for half a year. And then I came back and I felt head over heels.
Yeah, because the changes that they did to Grinding Lands was they made it a lot better. I liked it from the beginning, but again, the reason I like it from the beginning is because I was able to plan out with friends like, hey, look, I'll level up the forest and this, you level up this and that. And we were able to basically map it all out so that whenever we needed materials, like, hey, let's go hook up on Kegran's Guiding Lands or come over to my Guiding Lands and I'll go over to Wada's Guiding
Lands. Fatalis, there was a reason to do it, I felt. Fatalis was a really good reason to get those health augments, was a really good reason to get some of those other things. Or I think most importantly, just getting the defense augments to raise the defense on your set so you're not punished as hard. Mm-hmm. Like, it was really motivating, and I could feel the benefit of all the effort that was put in. Then finding methods to level up faster was really goofy and fun, like the Barroth washing was really funny.
Yeah. I mean,
like
in a
30
way,
minutes to boom.
There's stuff like that with for instance, with the anomalies as well, because like if you think, for instance, at a Rock Nikadaki, there's a lot of parts that you can break. Each part break adds more anomaly research points for potential new investigations.
Oh, does it? Okay.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons why initially when I was leveling up, I was like, dude, I'm gonna level up this Pyre Rock Nikadaki into oblivion because I was breaking up that poor monster over and with bullet barrages too. It was just literally just the bullet barrage spam build where I was like,
you get like a list of like 6 parts broken.
Boom! It's just like exploding this Pyrarachnic Kadaki. I'm just like, you goddamn friggin' Nursilla from Wish. I'm gonna kill you over and over and over for you. Because of you, there's no Nursilla in this video game. I hate you.
Yeah. So I mean, I would almost recommend to I don't think there's anybody like that exists, but if there is, if you just got like a PlayStation 5 or like you haven't even touched Iceborne, I would almost say that my recommendation is like, come January, if you get a console for Christmas or you spoil yourself or you have the ability to, play Iceborne until spring and then get Sunbreak.
Yeah.
That would be the ideal way to me because, goddamn,
because otherwise you're gonna.
I'll be honest with you.
It is gonna be weird. Like it's just like I kind of feel like between January and spring, you're basically just preparing to play Sunbreak. You're not really playing that much prep. You're just preparing to play Sunbreak, and it's like whatever. I think
you could do that in a weekend. Like when Sunbreak comes out, so it's not like it's like a preview almost of Sunbreak, in my opinion. Because do you really want to invest that much time when you know that you're immediately going to be able to bust into the next game?
Do you need like 100 high rank to get, not high rank, 100 hunter rank to get Volstrax? I forget what were the hunter ranking requirements for those. I need to check.
70 or 100 or so, yeah. So I mean, but then
so
again,
you still have to grind it. Yeah. You have to grind.
There's still some grind, but it wasn't as bad as the master rank.
The master rank grind.
I feel that I need to research it. Maybe I'm just totally wrong and I'm being a hypocrite. I don't know. I have to look into it.
It's like I'm telling you that the problem now is that I feel like you're over focusing on the master rank requirement as opposed to just focusing on playing the game. If you just play the game, it's like we always say, the rank comes naturally. You just play the game. You just do builds and play the game. And then the rank will come by itself and you don't have to worry.
That's true.
That's what I think it is you're doing. But it's like I said, the one thing that doesn't come naturally, though, I'll tell you right now, is the goddamn Anomaly rank. That doesn't come naturally at all. That requires quite a bit of preparation and grinding and all of that. But getting back onto the whole Iceborne thing. So I kind of like looking at these two, right? Sunbreak and Iceborne, and the differences that we have between them, and why it kind of feels like you have more fond memories of Iceborne than necessarily Sunbreak, is because I think the arcade nature of Sunbreak makes it, in a way, not as impactful as it was to like, oh, I'm just standing in the ancient forest, like slowly navigating the map, trying to figure out where this monster is. The map is huge and interweaving and interconnected and all of this, and it's an actual hunt. Whereas you jump into Sunbreak and you're just like, okay, wire bug my ass. Well, although in Iceborne you also had the monster riding things that you just like ride the thing all the way to the monster too. So I guess it's more world. World is really the one where it's like you still don't know exactly where the monster is. You're slowly moving, you're slowly progressing, you're slowly doing the things, you're actually hunting it. Whereas in Sunbreak it's like, I know where the monster is. I'm going to just like Spider-Man my way there, kill the monster, boom, done, which is fun. Not as impactful on your memory, I feel like.
For me, it's the visceral feeling of the weight of the combat.
Yeah, that's
so sad. It's so satisfying. Like I was going up against a Barioth the other day in Iceborne when I played it a little bit, and he does like the hip check and hits you and stuff. Like hitting him in the face with a great sword or getting hit by him, everything feels like a slug. Like it feels like we're really pounding at each other, and it feels more intentional. Where Sunbreak, I love the fast nature, and I think it's a great alternative, but it's so fast that it, by extension of that, it loses some of the weight.
Yeah, exactly. It's which is what takes us kind of like, what would we expect from Monster Hunter 6? Do we get another arcade Monster Hunter, another kind of like leaning almost into Devil May Cry territory, or do we go back again with? And I think that a majority of people are ready to like dial it back again and be like, hey, let's go for a more methodical.
It was a fun field trip into arcadey type style, but I think we're all yearning for the
more traditional experience.
Yeah, the traditional. I'm daydreaming about Monster Hunter 6 constantly. So if people think that I'm out of love in the game, you're wrong. I daydream about it as much as I daydream about FF, like 14 only. 6 is always in my head. I keep thinking, oh my god, when are they going to show it? What are they going to show? What's going to be the hook? I'm so damn curious.
I mean, listen, when Capcom reveals it, they have to invite me over to Japan, and we have to do like a special edition of the Third Fleet podcast where we'll be like doing interviews with the dev team and all that stuff. That's you have to. We'll go in there and we'll like, listen, we don't need translators, okay? We're good. Man,
I'm gonna lose my shit when they do finally get around to it, because I'm just excited for it. I mean, there's just and Yuna's really excited for it as well, because we have such good memories of Iceborne together.
Yeah. It's just it's time. Capcom, listen.
It's gonna be a while.
We get it. It's like you guys gonna release Rise and Sunbreak and home consoles and all that, but like, listen, look, it's time. It's time for Monster Hunter 6.
Yeah. Then Dragon's Dogma 2 will come out in the middle of the update cycle, and they'll be like, Gaijin's no longer playing Monster Hunter 6 because he's so busy with Dogma 2.
He's playing Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah, and that's going to be like, oh god, FF14 8.0 is coming out. That's all he cares about now.
You know that
I'm set for the next 5 years. I don't care what games come out. I've got my catalog ready.
It's like, I still get messages from people telling me, oh my god, I can't believe that I finally gave Dragon's Dogma a try because of you and Gaijin. And oh my god, where's this game been my whole life? And it's like, yeah, dude.
It's so good.
It's so good that people are still discovering Dragon's Dogma nowadays.
But the thing is, what excites me most about Dragon's Dogma 2, even more than Monster Hunter 6, is you taking the fact that Dragon's Dogma 1 had the same thing that Monster Hunter had, right? Whereas like it was kind of janky as hell in certain ways. It was very hard to understand, hard to get into, was a little weird in some places, but it had magic, right? It had a spark that was really unique. And then what they did with Monster Hunter is they took it with Iceborne and they really smoothed it out, like really fine pottery, and it's like they fixed a lot of that jankiness and made it hugely successful as a result. Imagine them being able to do that type of polish and stuff to Dragon's Dogma's formula. Oh my god.
Yep.
I'm
ready
for you, Capcom. Nail
we're
it.
ready.
I'll wait forever. Just nail it, please.
We're ready for that stuff. But I think we're gonna be calling it here, guys. Thank you all.
Before we call it, I gotta make this is not even a paid sponsorship, and know that I'm not about to talk about Manscaped. I'm not talking about Manscaped, and I'm not talking about Rage, Shadow Legends, crap, whatever. Those Ponchis. This is my again
favorite one.
I've not been told to talk about this. This is earned marketing, as they call it in the industry. These scenes are so goddamn good. Oh my god. So these are made by Endgame. I did a few tweets on some of the samples that they sent. I would happily buy another set of these out of my own money and import them. This is so much better than any of the goods I've seen come out of Japan in the last, 3 years. Because the goods here in Japan have really slumped, I think. A lot of the plushes, I don't necessarily care for some of the design. I tweeted about it in detail, but those scenes are like so cool. Because it's like it's a free line. And I love it. Try to sit it up on the table. Show people like they weighted it so it actually does sit, which is a huge deal for me. Many companies don't. Well, maybe you could see it. Yeah. They weighted them so that you can easily have them sitting around your house, or it's amazing. Like they understood that as a.
I'm
as a
holding
gamer.
this box in the air and he's not collapsing.
It's crazy, right? Because the poncho he has on has
because this is like the heaviest poncho too.
Yeah, it's like really substantial, like volume in there. It's really high quality, and really well done and sculpted. And when balance is great.
When Eric's told us about these, he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I can send you all of them." So it's like you would pick, give me the order, which ones you like the most. And I remember that Nergigante was like number 3 because I'm like, dude, I want Rathalos and Sinogre, of course.
But he's your favorite.
This is my favorite. Like, it's so good.
Yep.
I freaking love it.
What's really funny is me and Yuna like to sleep with a bunch of plushes in the bed with us, like on the futons. Because it's nice being surrounded by stuff you love, right? So we'll swap between some of the plushes. And the one I'm sleeping with now is that one, Nergigante. And let me tell you, those spikes are really spiky.
They are. I've said as much. When I was opening this for the first time on stream, I was like, dude, these spikes, they're a different material. They're actually spiky for some reason.
Yeah. But those scenes are so damn cute. And I want them to be wildly successful, not just because I love Alex and his team and what they're doing, but these are really good products.
It is.
I know that they have some weird thing where they can't ship it to some countries. I think there's some EU bullshit there. Hopefully that gets sorted out, but like, check it out. This is not even an ad. I'm in love.
Yeah. It's like, this is just stuff that, like you said, usually only really get in Japan. This type of stuff, like in
this
Portugal,
is better
at least
than what we get here.
I can't get this kind of merch at all. So yeah, it's pretty friggin' good. I love them.
Capcom, thank you for partnering with these people. Do more.
Yes, more of these partnerships. Also, there's some of their shirts that they did. There's now black versions. Black now. Yeah, I don't think it's all of them. I think it's only a few of them.
Yeah, I was gonna order it, but it wasn't in my size. I'm too I'm too much like Titscabra. I need to slim down a little bit, but I'll buy some once they're available for sure.
extra thick. I'm so sorry. It just like came to mind instantly. I was like, I have to say it.
Extra thick.
Oh man. Anyways,
wait, not Yotsumi Wada. What's it? Tetranodon?
Dude, my boy, Tetranodon.
I'm forgetting the English names now. It's so bad.
I remember when usually whenever I would mount, I barely ever see Tetranodon anymore. I don't even know if he's available as an anomaly now that I think about it. He might.
We need rare species Tetranodon. Do it.
Yeah, dude, he's my boy. Listen,
make him the size of Yamatsukami. Like make him absolutely huge, like World Eater.
Every time that I would ride Tetranodon, I would always just be doing the jump thing, and I'd be like, "Aha! Face full at Tetranodon crotch. Enjoy it."
He's great. Well, yeah, this has been really fun catching up with you.
Yes.
And as a funny catch-up joke to Ark, I think he mentioned very funnily that we have rifts or we badmouth each other more, and I actually think that that's a sign of a stronger friendship, because there's just that dynamic that when you're more fam, you like to shit talk each other more. So
of course
it just shows that our bondage is good.
It's that simple. It's like I've always said, and it's like forever. I feel like if we were forcing it whenever it doesn't feel like you want to talk on the podcast,
that'd be weird.
I feel like that would be really weird, and it would actually get to a point where we would be like resenting each other or something. This way, it's more natural, and hopefully, you guys enjoyed these episodes. A lot of you guys definitely seem to do so. So we will continue to upload them. Dude, did you see the amount of people that tweeted at us with the amount of hours that they've heard of Third Fleet Podcast in 2022?
Yes, that was crazy.
Dude, that was insane.
Love you guys, man. Thanks for listening.
Yes, very much so.
So hopefully this is a treat, because maybe we didn't see an episode coming. So, and who knows? We might have one soon. I mean, it all depends on what happens with the
Game Awards.
The Game Awards.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what might or may not come.
Yeah, if there's enough stuff there that we're interested in, we'll do another episode. We'll talk about it. But
variety episode.
Thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe,
and happy hunting.